Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. This meeting is now called to order. This is June 2nd, the City Council meeting. Our invocation will be given by Madam Clerk.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with open hearts and open minds, willing to hear what you feel is best for us and for our city and for our citizens. We ask that you join us, allow you to feel your presence and will, and guide us in the right directions. We ask all of this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone that desired to sign up for public comment done so? Okay.
You ready?
Yes. We have, okay. Yes, please.
Okay. First on your list is Heinz Boyd. Public comment.
Public comments.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr. Boyd.
About the,
Whatever you'd like to talk
the
about.
old business. Okay, you ready to talk about item 6 then?
No, sir. No, sir. We're at item 4.
Item 4, public
Okay.
comment, public comment.
You're welcome to speak on any matter that you wish to speak about.
Okay.
Have public comment.
It wouldn't be more appropriate to talk about this when you're discussing, right, it would.
Yeah, but
I think it
you
probably-
signed up for public comment, though. Do you
I'm
wish
sorry.
not to do that at this time?
No, I'd rather speak for this, I'm sorry.
Understood. Next is Jack Carswell.
I'm kind of the same as Heinz.
Okay. Next is Tracy Allison.
Yes, both myself and Matt are here for the same.
All right. All right. So next would be Mac, and then we have Sermon.
I'm misunderstood. I'm the same with him. I wanted to speak.
All right. All right. Then we have Mark Thompson.
During the rezoning.
Okie dokie. And Jane Gale Boyd.
The rezoning issue, thank you.
Moving along. All right. Diane Leach.
Same.
Okie doke. Kathy Radford.
I have something to read aloud that has been requested from some citizens who could not be here this evening. And Madam Mayor has informed me to read them now during public comment. This is from Johnny Sewell, who currently lives in Jasper, Florida.
Souley.
Souley, thank you. Is that person here?
Yes. No, ma'am.
Okay. I am the owner of the property at 340 South Jefferson Street, and I received the city manager's letter dated April 4, 2025 regarding the proposed land use changes referenced above, which is 370 South Jefferson Street, petition for rezoning, petition to amend future land use map. Because of my advanced age and infirmities, I was unable to travel to Monticello for the local planning agency meeting on April 17, and will be unable to attend the public hearing before the City Council on June 3rd. Please consider this letter evidence of my strong opposition to the requested rezoning and amendment to the future land use map. I understand the petitioner intends to construct a funeral home on the western portion of the property, which is consistent with the uses currently allowed in the B2 zoning category. However, because of the size and topography of the lot, off-street parking requirements likely cannot be met. I also understand the petitioner has requested the future land use map be amended to allow for a subsequent rezoning of the eastern portion of the lot to accommodate the off-street parking requirements. That portion of the lot has a conservation designation because of its sensitive environmental characteristics, and it serves as a natural drain for the surrounding area. That was the case when I or members of my family lived in the house next door from the early 1900s until 1992, and it is still the case today, although drainage and percolation capabilities have been compromised over the years, as evidenced by the eroded and/or collapsed roadways nearby. There are other arguments to be made against the proposed land use changes, including loss of green space and aesthetic value, and at least the perception of the impropriety of spot zoning decisions. I urge you to avoid setting a precedent that could have negative consequences in the future, and to accept the local planning agency's recommendation to deny the future land use map amendment and rezoning request. Doing so will, I believe, demonstrate your commitment to sound planning principles. Sincerely, Johnny Soule. Copies have been furnished to each council member, the city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney. The second is from Fred Bashirs of Simpson Nurseries. To City Clerk Kathy Radford and Mayor Gloria Cox and all City Council members. Unfortunately, I will be out of town for the City Council meeting on June 3rd and unable to attend the meeting to discuss the zoning change on South Jefferson, as will my sons. I have always been a proponent for and a strong believer in one's property rights. But with this belief, you have to also be aware that my rights must not infringe on my neighbors or the community. The proposed building of a funeral home across from our property at the Palmer House is going to create several problems for the neighbors, as well as the overall traffic situation in front of the business. You are already aware of the traffic patterns in front of this site. Many times I have seen traffic going north around the courthouse backed up in front of this site. On days of funerals, there will be lots of congestion and safety issues as the funeral processions access the highway, particularly if they want to go south. Won't get into the numbers of cars, but you can get an idea of what US 19 will look like if traffic is stopped for even 10 to 15 minutes on this 2-lane road. For this reason alone, the request should be denied. Also, there is the use of the land behind the lot that is currently in a conservation easement area for flooding and has been so for many years. If this area is turned into a parking area that restricts drainage, there will be problems for everyone in the area, the adjoining neighbors and those downstream. I have to presume that this easement area was put into place for many reasons and after a thorough study process, so this requested change should be denied. To sum it all up, this proposed use of this property is going to be a problem for all concerned, plus passersby on the road on some days. Again, the council should refuse this zoning change for the good of all parties and the community as a whole. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectively, Fred Bashirs.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
Next would be Tommy Wright.
I'm on zoning day too.
Okey-doke. Al Cooksey.
No,
And Mr. LaClarence May.
Mine is just a request, so continue.
All right.
Is it pertaining?
That should probably be first.
Yes.
yeah, that actually
Well, it's
is.
not on the agenda, but.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's what this is.
That's what
Finally.
You're the only one
Before
right
we
here.
I'll take it, I'll take
Public comment.
Greetings, council. I just wanted to come and introduce myself, Clarence Mays. But I wanted to come and ask, when you all start to develop your budget and we need some money. I am serving as one of the directors for the Jefferson County Senior Citizen, and I'm serving as the treasurer of the board. And going through the finances and trying to ensure that we are establishing and reestablishing a commitment to the county to service those individuals who've given so much to us. It is my plea that I come before you all to ask that you all give us some assistance. We are in the process of doing fundraisers to help aid ourselves. We do have a grant that we receive assistance with, and the county has been generous to give a donation as well. So I am now coming to our city to ask that you all let us get a piece of your budget to be able to suffice the things that we need to cover a few of the shortfalls that we are facing on behalf of the Jefferson County Senior Citizen Center. So that's what I come before you all tonight to see if you all can pledge a donation to be able to give back in return. And I assure you, you will see the works of the center not going void. So thank you all for your time.
Okay, do we have another?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Okay, we will proceed to item 5, make council meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
It's been properly moved in second that the May council meetings will be accepted. Item 6, old business.
Mayor, before you get started,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to report a form for a conflict of interest on the old business.
Okay. First up, planning items, comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning request, second reading.
Are you reading that?
I'm ready for the second readings if you are.
Yeah, the
Yes.
comprehensive plan first.
Ordinance number 2025-02, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Monticello, Florida by redesignating a parcel of land located at 370 South Jefferson Street, comprising .769 acres, from conservation and residential, low density, to commercial, providing for purpose, providing for adoption of the specified amendment to the City of Monticello Comprehensive Plan, providing for legal effect, providing for severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
And then I'd probably just do the rezoning too.
Ordinance number 2025-03, an ordinance rezoning property located at 370 South Jefferson Street, comprising .769 acres within the city limits of the City of Monticello, Florida, from R1 residential single family to B2 business highway, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay,
Mayor,
yes, sir.
on this item, I believe the engineer who's working.
I'll just go last, let everybody.
Okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. After the public comment on
Okay.
this, then he'll describe to you what's on those plans in front of you guys.
Okay, and now we're ready for the public comments.
Well, do you want
Should I go over what this is first again? Okay. So what's being asked of us is the property located at 370 South Jefferson Street. There's two requests right now. It's currently has two zoning. It's B2 business highway in the front, like many of those properties right there, all those realty businesses and such. And then in the rear, the zoning is R1 single family. The comprehensive plan has a future land use map that designates that same property for the future as commercial in the front, where it's B2 business highway, and in the rear, where it's residential, or where it's R1, the rear is conservation for a large portion of it, and then residential low density. Ms. Evelyn Hagan is asking that we change the comprehensive plan to make the entire parcel commercial, like the front, and for the future land use, and then for the current zoning to make the entire parcel B2 business highway, rather than the split zoning and the split comprehensive plan as it is now. And this is the second time, and potentially we could adopt it tonight, and that's where we're at right now.
Madam Mayor, could we have Mr. Evans state what's the purpose of that conflict of interest he submitted?
The conflict of interest is on the form of losses and gain, because I'm an employee at the funeral home, and it's a loss and it's a gain.
Just for clarity here, under section 112.3143 Florida statutes, elected officials cannot vote on any matter that would inure to the private gain or loss of any principal by whom the officer is retained, except if they're retained solely by a public agency. So in this case, Mr. Evans is correctly precluding himself from voting on this matter.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I got it, I see that.
Yeah,
Do he own any interest in this funeral home?
it doesn't matter if he has an interest or
Well,
not. He is
that's-
retained by the principal in this case.
So he don't be, that's private gain for him?
It's not a private gain.
Well, that's just what they
It's private
said,
gain
and
for her.
and this was reference to Jacksonville Liquor Authority back in 2023. And it also stated well, it's a lot, the whole 112, if you wanna read it and tell you.
It's,
But the board member received, they say he just received a fixed amount of consultation every month from the law firm, which consultation apparently is not dependent on any action that the JEA takes, and because the board member does not appear to have any other interest in any matter that will be coming before the JEA that will inure to his special gain or loss. It appears that the only reason that he would be prohibited from voting is if he knows a matter before the JEA inures to the special gain or loss of a principal by which he is retained, which is, at the law firm, the mere presence of one of the law firm's clients before the JEA on some interest matter, not created a voting conflict of interest. It is only when the board member knows that a matter before the board inures to a special gain or loss of the law firm that he is required to abstain from voting because of the lack of specific information provided to us concerning matters with which the law firm was involved, which came before the JEA. It is difficult for us to provide any further guidance as to whether the board member has been presented with voting conflicts of interest. And it goes on and on.
yes, I'm
But
familiar
that's
with
what that's what that was for.
that. Yes, in this particular instance, the private gain or loss is the use of this property as, by your employer, correct me if I'm wrong here, as an expansion of the business. It's pretty clear that there is a special gain here that's on the table, or a special loss by virtue of the property not being used.
Madam Clerk, are your speaker system working? Because I don't want my voice to be unintelligible, unreadable, unheard as was on these minutes. So I want to make sure that I'm clear when I speak. Whatever I say, that it's being picked up, and as you decide, they can be reported as I spoke. So I want to make sure these mics are working.
Okay, thank you. Now we will proceed with our comments.
Mr. Hines,
Well, would it open the floor up to any public comment on this topic, or are we going off of the list?
After this,
It kind of does both. I think, has anyone not signed up on the list?
I have not, I didn't know I needed to.
Okay. For this specific issue related to the rezoning?
I guess so.
I would just use the list since it appears everyone has signed up.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to sign up to speak on this topic? Okay.
Somebody out there hold up their hand.
If y'all wouldn't mind, y'all can come on down to right where I'm sitting, and we'll, in orderly fashion, get y'all on the list.
Where's the list?
Come on down.
okay, please keep in mind our 3 minutes.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Hines Boyd.
Okay, all right, thank you. Got the right.
Hold on, Mr. Boyd.
3 minutes, please.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. First, let me say that I'm probably sensitive about, because I served on the commission, county commission for 8 years, I'm probably sensitive about these kinds of hearings and sunshine law and ex parte communications. So I want to be clear up front about ex parte communications and disclose anything that I've had up front. I've talked with most of the commissioners here. Most of the council members here. And I want to say that there's nothing that I've said to them that's not in the documents that are already public, or that I'll say at this meeting. And I want to particularly say that Mr. Evans and I had a very short conversation. I appreciate your candor in disclosing the conflict that you had in your association with the funeral home. I commend you for that. I let me say something about what I call the ask here. I don't want to repeat all the stuff that's already been repeated in 2 letters and that you see in this thing, but I want to take this from a little bit of a different perspective. In my opinion, we shouldn't be here because you had the zoning and land use right, and I think your former council members did their job well. There are buffer zones between the business and residential. They addressed a problematic drainway or conservation land use designation. And what I really want to say, and this comes especially from my background on the county commission, is when you start messing with the land use ordinance, that's serious business. And the last thing that any governing body, I think, wants to get into is spot changes in an underlying ordinance, which is what you use in your case for your zoning. So, and your planning agency recognized that, and they voted 5-0 against making any changes. That's 5-0. So, and you have some pretty competent people on that agency. I think you did a good job when you appointed them. So I think the worst thing you can do is to override that recommendation, because then you not only ignore the work of your former council members and your planning agency, but what's really important is that you create serious problems for future city councils. Why? Because it sets a precedent. And that precedent makes it harder to reject unsuitable and bad spot zoning and land use changes in the future. So I ask, please consider the long-term consequences of your decision today. Now,
Sir, that's your 3 minutes.
pardon?
That's your 3 minutes.
Oh,
That was your 3-minute bell.
The alarm went off.
oh, you only have a 3 minute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought that since I was taking the lead on this, that I could go through some stuff.
No.
Okay.
Not a
Okay.
mayor asked me to
Does
set
the
the alarm
engineer
for
get
3
more than
minutes.
3 minutes? I haven't said the main part of what I wanted to say.
Madam Mayor, 3 minutes is 3 minutes.
Go
right?
ahead.
3 minutes? Yes, sir.
All right.
Not 1 minute over.
All right.
All right.
How much more time do you need?
I've been through this in the county commission
Yes, sir.
meetings before too,
That's
so
not
I
fair.
know how this goes.
Yes, sir. Well, we want to keep it in order now.
Yes.
All right, so what are you telling me? Sit down and shut up? Or keep talking?
She's trying to be nice about it. She's trying to be nice.
We're giving everyone 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Next is Mr.
I'm sorry, I'm deaf, folks, and I didn't understand, I didn't get that. I
Yes,
did
sir.
not get that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Next is Mr. Jack Carswell.
I don't need 3 minutes, I can tell you that. Anyway, I'm reluctant to speak against entrepreneurial activities. I'm reluctant to speak against enterprises. And I'm also doubly reluctant to speak against old and important family issues. But my experience says to me that it's a terrible place to build a mortuary or whatever kind of business they're in. I've had a lot of experience. I've managed 30 retail stores in my life. I was on the committee that established them. My concern really, if I think about it, is I think if you put the business that they're talking about on that lot, they're going to go broke. It's traffic brown. It's not big enough to take care of growth. It can't get much bigger. I live across the street from Beggs, and there are times when Beggs has about 3 acres or 4 acres over there, and there are people who want to park in my driveway when they have a big funeral. I mean, it's a big deal. So I just, and I kind of agree with Hines. I don't think that zoning and land use stuff is way over my head. I've tried to understand it many times and I have no idea about it. But I kind of think that there's been enough conversations and enough research and enough agreement that to get rid, to make an exception should only be made where there's compelling reason or an emergency. And I think none of those are present here. And then I'd like to say if the Hagans, I don't know who they are, but if they find another place and they need my help, I'd be happy to help them. But I want to see them be successful. So, and I'm going to let somebody take my seat and I'll stand out here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cottrell.
All right, next would be Tracy Allison.
That's Place Allison second.
What place?
I hyphenated.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to know, I have some visuals that will help you understand what I'm saying without having to, can I pass these out?
Yes.
There's one last piece that's not stapled on there. My name is Miss Tracy Place Allison. I live at 180 East Anderson Street, on the block that is directly affected. And I'd like to say, I'm going to read so I can get this out. I'd like to say, attending the LPA meeting left me hoping for some viable solutions for all parties. Until Ms. Hagan spoke at the meeting, I was unaware who the business owner was. Her impassioned speech left me with two thoughts. First, she felt the opposition to the rezoning placed all water management issues squarely at her feet and not the city's. Second, I felt there must be a compromise that can be found. I'm very much against changing the zoning of the entire portion of the parcel to business. This is simply because that while the intent is doing what's possible to mitigate water runoff, we know it would be impossible to stop non-permeable parking from being implemented in the future zone once the zoning is changed. If that were to occur, either now or later, what contingency does the city have for the runoff that is already a serious issue, as we all know? Jefferson County's land development code set forth the future land use for a reason. The local features of the land can cause severe downstream issues. In part, their aim was to minimize disruption of commerce and public service. Looking at a basic calculation of expected runoff based on measurements taken off the property appraiser's website, so bear with me if this is approximate. I did a basic calculation of if that were to turn into a permeable surface, which is highly likely. So for every 100 square feet of surface, it produces 62 gallons of water runoff. So the lot size is rather large. It calculates to about 15,000 gallons of water for 1 inch of rain, which is a pool. That is a pool being dumped down that hill for every 1 inch of rain. And that's a 12 by 24 by 7 foot deep average pool. That's a lot of water. I see the water in my property. That is a lot of water. Considering a selected boundary adjustment to the B2 zone section to accommodate 4 to 5 extra parking spots needed might be a solution. And while this might not be something that's asked of me to provide, leaving that last meeting, I just thought, what are some solutions to get that business there? I want to support business. I want to grow business. I want to support local owners. But even with the 4 or 5 parking spots, there's 400 gallons of additional water being poured off that lot. 400 gallons, though, can be mitigated with, even something as simple as water runoff management. So swales, and for this business, something as creative as a water garden for memory. You go out there and you have your person who's mourning, and they go out and they have a peaceful respite from all the drama, the people, and just rest. And it might be a benefit to this business. I don't know. It is an unsolicited opinion, and I get that.
Ma'am.
But I just want to state that I am against rezoning the lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mac?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm just tagging on to Tracy's statement. Just very briefly, just wanted to say that just in the last calendar year, 2024, we had over 90 days of significant rain events, and that's considered by the Swanee River Water Management District. it'd be including 29 days that were over half an inch, 15 days that were more than 1 inch, or 7 days that were more than 2 inches. Some key specific days was December 29th, 3 inches, September 26th, nearly 4 inches, and of course, April 11th, it was nearly 8 inches of rain. And taking that into consideration, we know that can just come from any typical daily thunderstorms. Just taking into consideration already the significant water damage we've had through that area. There's a section of West Anderson Street that's impassable, and it has been for some time now. I know you guys have been dealing with people versus the state and whoever is being pushed back on you to keeping you from being able to make the repairs on it, as it appears that the whole drainage system has collapsed there already. And so, just taking into consideration what can we do to actually fix this water management issue. Remember from Hurricane Helene 2 years ago, that section of 19 actually flooded over and was left impassable for a significant period of time. So, I mean, if we do anything with this land parcel and anything to help make something happen here, the water management issue has to be addressed in a sufficient manner that will not creep up and then end up in a situation where Ms. Hagan could be stuck footing the bill and being accused of things, or taking lawsuits or what have you, for just trying to have a business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Lynette Sermon.
Hello, my name is Lynette Sermon, and I own the property located at 310 South Jefferson Street, which I intend to have be my future home as I get older and decide to retire one day. I'm going to end up living there, and it would be, it's currently a real estate office, but my son lives in the back in an apartment, and I know that changing the zoning would be a negative impact for that strip of the town. When I've handled properties through the years that become one type of business and then that person retires or ends up stopping that line of work, and if this is rezoned to something much more intensive, not that a funeral home is anything negative, but because it would be rezoned for anything more intensive commercialism to go there, it would be a negative impact, especially because of the amount of traffic that we already have coming right through that little section. It's about 11,300 cars per day, thanks to Jane Gale for getting that information from the Department of Transportation. I know that now, like the man that wrote the letter across the street, you read his letter. Mr. Bashir's across the street said that he has observed, as I have, I've been there 45 years, it'll bottleneck back, and it'll just sit there sometimes, especially when the interstate has been closed off or cut off and they reroute people up that section. It just is a very thick bottleneck. And if it's changed to something more intensive in the future, I mean, we don't have any traffic lights now, but by golly, there'd be one have to go there, and I'd be right where I'm wanting to live one day. And Monticello's just a sweet little town with not a whole lot going on right there, just kind of a residential section. And I know we got businesses up and down, and things change, I know that. But I'm against rezoning it for the intensive use. And I think that I just piggyback on a lot of what Mr. Bashir said, and Tracy and Mac have said. It's the whole conservation and the flooding, and it just would change things too dramatically. It needs to stay the same.
Okay, thank you.
Could I clarify something real quick? So the current zoning in the front of the property already allows for a funeral home to be built, and I want everyone to understand that. What there's not room for right now is the parking that they would need of 25 spaces would need to go in the area that they're trying to change. So if there was no parking requirement, a funeral home could still be built in the front of this property. But where they're wanting to put the parking lot and where they would likely need to, because there just wouldn't be the space for everything, is in the rear where the conservation is and where the residential use is. So they would be trying to match the rear of the property to the front of the property so that they can build their parking lot, just to clarify.
Shall
All
we
right.
continue?
Mark Thompson?
Hello. My name is Mark Thompson. I live at 375 South Joaquina Street. That property is immediately behind the property that has the proposed rezoning. We share a property line. I'm opposed to changing the conservation area. I'm pro-business. I'm a business and computer science teacher, pro-entrepreneurship. However, I'm concerned about dismissing our responsibilities as stewards of land for the future use, removing the conservation. Once that's gone, there's no reestablishing it. If we turn one piece of conservation land over to and change an established precedent, we're going to create a new one, and that's going to be very difficult to manage. I'm also not aware of any independent assessment. Many people have talked about the water. I'm not aware of an independent assessment of impact on water flow. We all know when the rain falls, the ground gets soft and the trees tip over. I just had a third tree fall into my property just a couple days ago. That happens. I'm not blaming that on anyone. That's just an act of God. But that if we change that land and put a non-permeable surface on that ground, all that water is going to end up in my backyard, and I really don't want that water there. I don't believe that the property is suited to what they need. The front part may be buildable as a funeral home, but they really do need the parking. Once we make that change to the zoning, once you make that change to the zoning, we have no control over what gets built there if Ms. Hagan changes her mind or someone else purchases the property. There are multiple developed properties around town that would likely suit this project. Without so many land and zoning modifications, not the best solution, I know, but as someone who shares a property line with them, I am opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Jane Gale Boyd?
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Cox. Thank you very much, and the council members for having me here today. My notes here. Okay. There are a couple of things that I wanted to say, and with all due respect to Ms. Hagan, who's my neighbor, I'm expressing my opposition to the zoning change and the comprehensive plan amendment. We have the property at 370 South Jefferson. We're immediately south, and Neverest Holdings is our business and company. We rent it to our real estate business. There are a couple of comments. One, traffic. I put on the last page of the handout that we passed out to all of you the counts from DOT. It's the second highest traffic count after I-10 in the entire county. 11,300 cars and vehicles go past a day. So that is a big issue, and I provided the information. It's to Walter Liddell of DOT, and it's posted on their website, and we have a copy of that now. The merge into one lane is right in front of 370. I'm right before it, and I can tell you it does bottleneck. I suggested to the Planning Council that maybe if they consider this, they might have to move that merge lane all the way back past Monticello Millen, because you can't have it 2 blocks from the courthouse. It's just not going to work. And then also, I passed out, and I gave a copy to all of you, there are 35 people that are adjacent neighbors on Joaquina Street, Mulberry, etc., and own properties there, that I handed you a petition signed by 35 people, and that was just done since Saturday. And so those people are all, were not able to attend, but they are opposed to this. Now, I don't know if any of you spent any time with this map. Okay, if you will turn to the second to the last page, we show the zoning issue there, But if you look at the second part of that map, you will see it shows the head of the drainage. The front part of this, is this, and I know that each of you had a copy. The clerks passed it up to you. I have more if you can't find it. So you'll turn to the third page or the second page from the back, whichever is easiest to get to. Here you go. I have extras. I even passed them to the audience, the ones that were here earlier. Okay. If you will look at that, you can see that it's been mapped out where that drainage problem starts, which is at the end of Cherry Street. And you can see it starts there, and it goes on down, over all that conservation land behind our property and the others, and it goes across, and that's where you know where we have the collapsing street in front of Rob and Jeff's grocery store that they keep repairing, that we can't keep repaired. That's part of it. It goes down to the chicken place, which is Maryland Fried Chicken, the back of their parking lot, and Mulberry Street is collapsed at the end, and that church there is full of water. Okay, that's currently. If we even add an easement which was proposed,
That's your 3 minutes,
we'll have
ma'am.
more.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Diane Leach.
Good evening. My name's Diane Leach. My husband, Bill Leach, couldn't make it here this evening. We live at 345 East Washington Street, and I'm here to be a vocal voice for anything that has to do with land conservation. This council and the council that preceded very astutely, wisely knew that certain lands needed to be protected for future use, not just for an enterprise, but for the entire community. And my husband and I stand firmly on that, and we're in opposition of the proposed home being built on conservation lands, as well as any sort of rezoning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tommy Wright.
I'm Tommy Wright. I live at 120 East Anderson, so I am down the bottom of the hill from all this. I've been here since, it'll be 4 years next month I've been living here. And I've watched the hole in front of Bob and Jeff's be collapsed twice, dug up twice. They just did it again with a blade over it. The end of Mulberry Street has lost 10% of it now in that corner, and that's growing. The chicken place across the street's lost probably at least 10% of their property, if not more. None of that's going to be fixed by bringing this rezoning. It's just going to be made worse. And second of all, my understanding is that this has been zoned this way since roughly 1990. And the current owners own it since 2019. So this is not something new. If they're land speculators, they should have researched a little more thoroughly before they decide to come in. They would have seen that zoning was already there, was not zoned for what they wanted to do. And finally, as one other person pointed out, there's plenty of other properties in the county that could be developed that are undeveloped or derelict buildings that would be much better suited to this and would not bring the traffic issues, would not bring the drainage issues. Thanks.
Thank you.
Al Cooksey.
Thank you, guys. I know it's a tough situation. I'm glad Jane Gill passed out this map, because this map tells a story. I've been on this building for 8 years, and 2 different groups of people sat here and was going to fix the problem, and it has never been fixed. It gets kicked down the road. I'm at the bottom of the hill, and it's terrible. I lost $20,000 when we had 10 inches of rain. They told me I could file a claim with the board. You guys. I did everything they said, no problem. I got nothing. Every time, and on that conservation easement is up beyond us, that water comes off that conservation easement in my building. And if you go behind my building, I could bury most of us in that hole. And nobody's done anything about it. So that's my thing, and I hate to change something sometimes too. But we need to solve this problem. I mean, how many city managers do we have to bring in here to solve this problem? And, you know, I know the state people, I've talked to the state people, I've done that, all that, trying to move it. And it's a problem we all have, whatever you decide about the funeral home. But that has got to be fixed. It's destroying the bottom of the hill, the property. It's ruining the other side of the hill. We can't get along with the state. State, well, you know, don't kick the can. Fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Willie Collard.
Oh, good. Now my 3 minutes starts now, right?
Yes, sir.
I have just 3 questions, and the first one would be to the attorney. Help me to understand when you say employee. Is that something that someone has to be constantly working there, like on a day-by-day basis?
It actually, the wording of the statute uses the word retained.
Retained.
So it is not necessarily full-time employment, it is not necessarily part-time employment, it just means that they are retained. And I should note specifically that that's the statute that's towards specific classes of government officials, of which local government officers are one.
Okay, and when you say retain, help me to understand retain.
Retained means that they are an individual that is, for whatever reason, in service to that principal entity, whatever that may be. It's kind of a loose concept, but that's really what we're talking about here. Is the traditional thought of it is an employer-employee relationship. There can be certain contractual relationships that are similar.
Okay, let me get to this other question here before my minute goes, because he done took one of them.
You're asking questions.
Yeah, so the other question is, how is the water being handled now? I don't know who the city manager is. Or the city manager is.
So right now, we're in a tussle with FDOT over them trying to say that they do not have responsibility, and we're receiving information that they have said in the past that they have responsibility, and before we have set in stone that it is not theirs, we could be shooting ourselves in the foot by starting something on it when it should be them helping us to take care of it. And if we start that before we know for sure, they will shed all of it, and then we'll be left with it. And then if there are deeper problems, we're going to be the ones footing the bill on that. But I have been in a lot of contact with FDOT about getting this fixed. There's been over a dozen employees from FDOT in the last couple of weeks down there looking at this area. I was speaking with the drainage specialist just a week ago down there, coming up with plans of how we can solve this problem. So it is not being ignored, and I am actively working on it.
Okay, thank you. Last question, I'm going to my seat. Commissioner Evans, he brought up the point of conflict of interest. Would it constitute a conflict if an individual is on a part-time basis and they don't make no decision in the establishment, they only be compensated for their service?
The definition is retained, unfortunately, and retained, as I already told you, can't mean part-time.
Thank you.
Say your name for me, so I
I'm
don't.
not gonna tell you. I'm gonna introduce myself.
Well, I don't want to.
I don't push it up. Don't push
you.
it up. First of all, I am not Evelyn Hagan. I am Juanita Minton Crumpty Jane Gale. Okay?
I know that.
Okay. I know you know that.
I know.
I know that. Again, I'm Juanita Crumpty. The former commissioner, county commissioner, said we should not be here. We should not be here. This should be fixed. I remember Cooksey saying that this should have been fixed some time ago. Well, somebody need to put the metal to the pedal and get something fixed. Because she should not be held hostage for something that she did not cause. I've heard someone say all about all the water. We know how to kill a tree to go get our point taken. We can't stop God water. I remember a county commissioner told me when I was looking for help because water was coming over from another owner on me, flooding my carport. They said that was God's water. That's what I was told. That's what I was told. And I also was told that trees should not be taken down because of conservative and all this. Because this is our land, we want to do this. And after the vote went against me to keep from the road on Brock Road to be paved, the next day Pinckney Hill Plantation cleaned out the, but that was that. We have different places in this city limits. The churches, the ex-funeral home, they don't have ample parking. They don't have, but nothing was done. Nothing was done about that. The water runs off should be taken care of. If you need to go to DOT, you need to get you an attorney that gonna fight for you. You need to get your state representative. Jane Gale was a former representative, so she can get you in the door. I work for a state representative. I can get you in the door. Fight for it. Get it done. Don't hold hostage in this lady trying to improve. Why should she not be able to improve her well-being? Why? If it was you, she don't want to go somewhere else. There's plenty of property that in Jefferson County. But you go to that place. You live there. You move. She wants to be there. Why not? The lawyer have already, or someone has said that her front part is she can build it there. So park on the streets. Why not? If you don't want her to make that in the back commercial, park on the streets. Everybody else does. So why not? Consider what you're doing. Think about what you're doing. This is affecting not one person, but several people. Several people. Get your water runoff, get it taken care of. Someone said they want to be a steward of the city. We are stewards, period. We are here working for that man upstairs. He and his son, Jesus Christ. We are here. We say we Christians. But are we really Christians? Are we really?
Some of us are.
But even those that say we are, go down deep and think about what you're saying. How you trying to hurt this woman? You're trying to hurt her. Well, your words saying it. Remember what you're saying can come back to get you. It can come back to haunt you. And when it comes back, it's bad.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley.
You're welcome.
Matthew Parkin.
Good evening, Commissioners. Matthew Parker, Parker Engineering, representing Ms. Hagan on the matter. We'd spoken at zoning, we spoke to you all before. In front of you, you have some drawings we'd sent over to Clerk that we have to like to consider. We've heard the concerns from the planning and zoning meetings. We've heard concerns from the citizens at the commission. A couple things we'd like to discuss with you on this. As far as from a zoning standpoint, the property, the front of the property, as you know, is zoned B2 and is allowed to be developed as a funeral home. It's the rear portion of the property that we have, that we need for parking. I think the code requires we have a certain amount of parking. We're proposing a gravel parking space in the rear, not impervious parking. And we've given you a couple of options here. The way the site sits today, the conservation easement is adjacent, comes up against the western side of that property, when in actuality, if you go out there and walk the site, the ground tapers to the far east property line. So the conservation easement that exists today doesn't match up with the way the water flows. The problem with the conservation easement has been discussed before. If you're going to get the DEP involved, the state, whoever's going to come out here and do anything, nothing can be done with conservation easement. So no pipes, no grading, no swales, nothing. You leave the water run across the land as is. You can't do anything to it. It's conservation easement. So we'd offer a couple options. You can either, we could relocate the conservation easement to the eastern property boundary and move the parking. It won't solve any of your drainage problems. That's one option. Or the second option, that I think is probably the better from an engineering standpoint, is if you take the conservation easement off, we build a series of drainage swales with ditch blocks. Once the easement is off, we're allowed to build these things, place the area in a drainage easement. The drainage easement be granted to the city and future landowner. So should in the future the city work something out with the state and have a chance to make drainage improvements in the area, you would already have a drainage easement in place which would grant you access to the property. By having an easement across the back, it would preclude development in that area. No paving, no building, nothing like that. So it would be retained as natural green space. I've shown, we did details with a series of swale ditch blocks for the FDOT requirements. This will provide water quality treatment and rate control. It's not going to solve all of your problems, but it will be a step in the right direction as opposed to just leaving it alone and having it continue to flow through the property. I think that's about it. If any questions you have of me, I've given you some different pros and cons of it and showed you the swale on there and what it would look like when we're finished.
I have a question on the pros, the third one down. Provide a 40-foot wide unbuildable buffer to adjacent parcels. What kind of?
That's a drainage swale. So it would be a swale that would be deeded for drainage. Therefore, you can't build any permanent structures in it. So that you can't come put buildings or houses or anything permanent in that area. It's going to be a drainage easement. It'll always have to be that into perpetuity.
And that would be to keep those houses from receiving all the water that are on that far eastern side.
It would provide buffering to the houses and would give you the opportunity to construct some kind of a conveyance structure to do something with the water that flows through there today.
But it's not gonna, is it going to actually address the water that's gonna run off the parking, permeable or not? Because
Yes.
permeable's still not gonna
Yes, it's
keep all the
gonna,
water
it's,
there.
the
100%.
parking lot would drain into that swale, into those series of ditch blocks. Water is retained behind the ditch block as it flows down the hill.
So it's still flowing down the hill, just slowing it down.
Oh, it'll continue, yes. It continues down the hill. Water does that. It's gonna go all the way to the bottom of the hill. The trick is
Appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
to slow it down and provide some water treatment as far as provide capacity in the swales to allow the water to perk in as opposed to just run across the ground.
One of the problems is that you have leaf-filled soil there, which is very poorly drained, so anything, even a semi-permeable parking place would be a problem, especially during rain. You'll probably be towing cars out of there.
We'll
Not Dothan, it is leaf-filled.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, his 3 minutes is up. If you want to continue, they'll allow them to questions. That's fine, but I just want to make you aware his 3 minutes is up.
Okay, thank you. I think he is the last,
Well, Madam Mayor, the Clarence Mays was asking if he could be allowed to be addressed on that topic. I skipped him due to the fact I thought he wanted to be on the other.
okay,
That's up to you.
yes. Yes.
So, I have a question. So, the front part is made for commercial. The back side is made for residential. If a person decided to build a house on the back side, what work would have to be done, and would that change the way the water is being ran now?
As it is currently, you are correct on the zoning issues, but there's a third zoning, which is a conservation easement.
Okay, but if I wanted to build my house here,
We would still be doing this.
Yeah,
so we'll still be having this conversation.
yes,
So something will still have to change in order to make it happen.
correct.
So if at this point, commercial, residential, why wouldn't we go ahead and address the concern? Because the water seems like it's still gonna be rolling. So this could actually
We're
help.
addressing both.
So I would say we should support the change so that we can go ahead and start the work that needs to happen to be able to circumvent or fix the issue that is currently causing erosion. So I was just, concerned about if it was residential, if I built a house on the back, we still gotta do some work. If I did commercial on the front, we still gotta do some work. So we still gotta address the issue. Doing nothing continues to have us with an issue where you're fighting with DOT and no money is still not being put into it. So at the end of the day, economic status and development for businesses versus not doing anything.
I was
that's
just asking.
suggesting Ms. Hagan's going to mitigate all the water coming off the parking lot 100%?
If it was residential, would the residential have to do the same thing?
They would have to go through the permitting process to get this changed also.
And the permitting process going through the regulatory piece of that will be picked up by who? Who would bear the burden? Okay, I'm just asking.
I'd just like to say that in conservation, there is limited development, so it does not preclude us from doing something like the ditch block or doing something to help drainage, because I would still consider that limited development. You're changing the land for conveyance. You're not necessarily developing on it.
So possibly adding a couple of parking spots to give her the ability to create the business, and then adding a swell to manage that.
Give me one. Okay.
Okay, I take that back. The grading, I suppose, is a problem. That's what
It's currently graded as, current easement is conservation, which means technically we're not supposed to do anything to it under our code.
So,
Because this is a city conservation easement as opposed to some of the other ones that may be available under different entities.
I have a question. Would that include the possibility of a rain garden to assist with?
Technically, yes, I believe so. I'm not exactly sure what a rain garden is, I should
It's-
say, but.
It's basically adding vegetation that assists in absorbing the water.
The
from
conservation
runoff.
easement is intended to remain natural, so.
Right,
Madam
native
Mayor, I
plants.
didn't use my entire 3 minutes. May I have 30 seconds?
All right, Mrs. Hagan, desire to speak.
Oh, please, let Ms. Hagan go.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hagan, would you like to explain?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not sign up. My name is Sally Roberts. I'm Ms. Hagan's attorney, and I wasn't familiar with your processes and did not want to confuse the issue of being part of the public. But I would like to speak on Ms. Hagan's behalf.
Your name for the record, please.
Sally Roberts.
Thank you.
And thank you guys all for your time and for your consideration. I was at the first meeting and I appreciate it all. I could tell everyone was taking this very seriously. And I also appreciate the public and understand the concerns, but I want to, in the 3 minutes, kind of touch on the 3 big issues that I hear and just speak to it from what I've heard from both meetings and from a legal and my limited knowledge of engineering, but deferring to the engineer's expertise. So the conservation issue is the big issue, that along with the water drainage. There is a water drainage problem, I can tell from just hearing everyone. It is not going to be solved by saying no to this, and it is not going to be solved by either of these solutions. However, these solutions do provide some kind of a remedy that can possibly be had, whereas right now, if it stays in conservation, you can do nothing, as they've talked about. So by providing some kind of remedy with maybe an easement, some kind of drainage easement, that could go with the property. You could actually put limits. So the concern of a new commercial entity coming in and just completely willy-nilly paving, you can put limits on that and release the conservation easement. So that is really, I think, the main concern isn't as much of a concern as everyone's worried about with what she's trying to do. On top of that, the traffic issues everywhere in this town. Parking's everywhere in this town. It's kind of the nature of the small town, and you can't really solve it. You deal with it. Traffic for funeral processions, that's going to happen no matter where you are. You're going to be backed up, and I think the majority of us agree it's a matter of respect, and you just deal with it. Spot zoning, that's just a wrong application. That's a wrong term when it applies to this. This isn't a matter of spot zoning. The spot zoning issue is actually could be a way to describe what's actually happening with the conservation easement. That's a spot in the middle of all of the business and the transition to residential. So that's kind of the wrong use of that term when people worry about, hey, what you're doing here, you can't do it, you're doing spot zoning. Because this is, the majority of it, zoned for a business such as this. She's just asking for some accommodations, which in reality will make the use of the property fit with the neighborhood better and provide some kind of a start to the solution with the drainage, even though it's not going to be a complete solution, and I agree with Mr. Cooksey and everyone else, sounds like it needs to be dealt with, but I understand there's a lot of red tape there. Thank you, guys.
Can we ask one quick question? Are you allowed to ask you a question? You want to ask Ms. Parker?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Roberts, rather. You have a question?
My question is this: the conservation easement just means nothing can be built there, it's protected, but the drainage easement just means the water's flowing through, and it's not protected in any way. Is that correct?
A drainage easement can have specific terms depending on what you...
It's an easement, so
Yeah.
an easement, calling it a drainage easement is, it really should be an easement for drainage. An easement is a defined use of property. Under that defined use of the property, you can set certain parameters based off of what's in the deed, which I'm sure will happen down the road. It's important to remember today that what we're looking at isn't this issue. We're not looking at how this is going to happen. We're looking at whether or not we'll permit the zoning to be rezoned from residential to commercial in the back part of this lot, as well as the functional removal of the conservation easement for just this property. Now, after that, we go through the rest of this process, which is where these maps come in, where the plans come in, where everything has to still be approved in order to move forward with this. But in order to even get there, we have to do this part first, which is dealing solely with whether this is zoned for commercial or residential, and again, with the conservation easement.
Madam Mayor, can I ask for a clarification from the city attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
When you say the rezoning is only for her property, but the conservation easement goes all the way down to Monticello Milling.
That is
So we're
correct.
you're talking not just that property, you're talking
No, we're
all the way
talking just
behind.
her property.
Yeah, just that portion of the conservation is what we're discussing.
But it
I'd
still
like a-
doesn't solve the
I'd
drainage.
like a
No,
point
it
of
does not.
clarification. So today's vote is strictly about the conservation easement.
There's two votes,
Okay,
actually.
well,
The
Zoning.
the zoning?
the zoning and then the conservation easement.
Correct.
The comp plan amendment and the rezoning.
Right, so, in this meeting, the change that the engineer proposed as, drainage, would not be addressed in this.
It
And
wouldn't
then-
be approved in this.
Okay.
That's correct.
Um,
That's a separate issue that
So-
would be before
so-
the LPA.
Okay, to follow up, can they change between the time if it were voted to pass canceling the conservation easement, can the change between this and their next step be to do something completely different than what they just presented?
It would still have to be approved.
I didn't ask if could they change what they intend to do? So they can stop the
they can
conservation
say-
easement
They can
and
sell
then
the property.
and then do whatever they want to do by the next meeting for the next vote for
I
approvals?
mean, we can't restrain someone from selling their property, obviously. When it comes to what they want to do, they can submit it to the LPA and this council, and whether or not it gets approved is still subject to the same issues. Now, I do believe that it's been made abundantly clear how bad the drainage issue is here. I don't think there's a single person in this room who doesn't acknowledge that. But that being said, what we're looking at is also some further variance off of what is ordinarily required for both parking lots and for, I do apologize, can you clarify what is the next two issues that we're dealing with on this one?
If this is changed to allow a parking lot to be built in the rear of the property, then the plans for what is to be built on this property, and also, which would include the parking lot, would be presented to the local planning agency and go through all of that approval process, recommendation to come here. There would be, so far, a variance included in those plans for a couple of the parking spaces, and a variance to allow the entire parking lot to be gravel or grass or dirt rather than paved, because just strictly following the code, it would need to be paved. So there would be a couple variances coming with those site plans that would all go to the LPA, and then they would give a recommendation on whether they think it's a good idea or not, and then it would come back to the city council again to then approve what's going on the property. And those plans would include this plan for a ditch block system to slow the water.
But the LPA already denied.
The LPA has only given a recommendation of the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezoning so far. We waited on the site plans because that was all contingent on what's happening with this first.
Okay, but once the conservation is removed, really anything can happen after that?
Once the conservation is removed, if only the conservation was removed, then the future land use map would show residential low density in the rear. But what we're actually talking about in the application is for both of those to be changed to commercial for the future land use. So that would change the whole future land use of the property to commercial.
So once it's commercial, they could just change the variances and just ask to pave it? I mean, it would have to go through approval, but they could technically do that.
They could say we don't want to do variances, we'll pave the whole parking lot.
They'd have to go through the
They can
approval.
present that to the local planning agency.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will hear from Mrs. Hagan.
No, you don't have to. All right. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Evelyn Hagan. I have heard and I have seen. I want to make a correction. This building is establishment. It's not a new establishment. It's 3 funeral homes here. So I want to correct that. I see that the drainage is not going anywhere. And as I said, when I purchased this land, it was no problem. All this coming up now was no problem. Well, I see that on the north side, on the east side, you got funeral homes. They have to be in the street. Here on Jefferson Street, you have nothing but business. They have to come out on 19. So what safety? You have to be careful in any situation. In funeral procession, thank God we have the city police and we have the county that direct us where we need to go. I'm not there 24/7. I'm only there when needed. So I don't understand what really is the problem. That this drainage system is definitely not Hagen problem. It got to be other options that what we can do according to my civil engineer. He present that. So I don't understand what's going on here. What's going on with Hagen Funeral Service? If that water is doing that now, it's going to continue to do it. And there's no doubt about it. So thank you, Councilor and the members, for listening to me. And I think that's it. I am not the problem.
Thank you, Mrs. Hagan.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Now, I just want to point on the alternate plan 2 with the ditch block system. I just, in the pros, the second pro about the city maintaining this, I think the council should really think about that, that if this is one that's going to be considered, we should at least
I
think
would
about
like
the
to
city.
point out that we're not, we can't approve use today.
Yeah, if it's used as a back, that's something to think about later, that the city would then be responsible for keeping that the way it is.
The reason it was brought up, it was stated in there that the city would have with the drainage easement, would be granted to the city, so that the city does have the ability to maintain or modify it in the future. So that if there were concerns like concerned that Ms. Hagan sells it and somebody else takes it over, and then they abandon it and they don't maintain it like they're supposed to, that the city would have that option, so that the problems wouldn't revert, where if the ditch blocks aren't maintained and it all gets washed away, that the city would have the ability to come in, not that they're going to be responsible, but that they can. That was the only option we were putting out there, that we can structure the easement such that the city has that ability.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I had asked you earlier. As I said before, I live immediately behind, we share a property line, and I want to make it very clear that we are not opposed to Ms. Hagan or what she wants to do. I am very concerned as the house immediately behind her, at the head of that, where that water is going to go into my yard, and I wholeheartedly respect her concern about her being responsible, but I don't want to be responsible either. And her engineer, and I'd love to see those plans because it's the first I've heard of them. I knew about everything else, but not that. What am I going to have to do? He said something about some other thing needing to be built. Who's going to build that other thing that's going to keep the water out of my yard? Because I bought my house, I'm a school teacher, I bought my house to retire in Monticello, not absorb 40, 50, I don't know how much, who knows how much money it costs. If there's a solution that moves that water along, which I know the water's gonna happen, moves that water along and doesn't turn my property into a swamp, I'm willing to hear it. But I haven't heard anything other than, I haven't seen that yet, so I'm sorry.
We have water under our building too, we're just to the south. It's a problem.
I want her to have a
But is
solution.
it gonna go anywhere if she does not deal? Is it still gonna come under your
But
building?
it's not in my yard
But it's gonna
now.
be tripled, quadrupled,
It's not
times
currently in my
10.
yard, that's my concern.
Why would that? Why would it?
Because the amount of water runoff added with the parking lot is going to increase by hundreds of thousands, thousands of gallons.
Even with the gravel parking lot?
The gravel parking lot is likely not going to be the end result.
Leon County doesn't even consider gravel to be impervious.
Madam Mayor, it is up to you if you would like to discuss this further. I do feel the need to point this out, and this is rather unfortunate, but there are 4 voting members of this city council who are eligible to vote in this matter. Functionally, Monticello does not have a tiebreaker system, which means that under the default rules, the majority, which means more than 50%, have to vote in favor of these changes in order for them to pass. I do not like stating this. I do not like being the one to bring this up, but I feel it's necessary to do so at this time.
She don't know what to do. All right, council, what do you?
I cannot propose a motion, so.
Do we have any discussion amongst us? So. Yeah, I'd like to take just a second. May I take a minute?
Yes, sir.
I probably spent more time pondering this issue than anything else that's come across our desk in my short time on the council. So I want everybody to know that I've been looking at it carefully and closely, and I'm very, very sympathetic to Ms. Hagan and what she wants to do. And as far as I'm concerned, whether we have 2 funeral homes in this county or 50 funeral homes in this county is not our business. I mean, if people want to do that, that's their prerogative to do with what they want to do. So I'm sympathetic to that. I'm appreciative of the very thoughtful engineering work that's gone into this already to try to mitigate these issues. I kind of feel like we're following the process as it's written, but I really hate being put in a position of voting to get rid of a conservation easement before we have the rest of the pieces in place, and that for me is a problem. Additionally, I struggle with two things concerning drainage. I'm not concerned about traffic. I actually don't think that, I think that could be mitigated traffic. I think, good engineering could help, but we have a total of 6 property owners that are affected by the conservation easement just on the east side of 19 going down there. So my concern is if we take away the conservation easement for a particular use, are we then obligated to continue considering removing that conservation easement on down the line and continuing to exacerbate the problem? The other concern I have is that from Steve Wingate and from Clerk, the reason that issue at the bottom of the hill hasn't been addressed is that if we touch it, we own it, and that's going to be extremely expensive. My concern is if we remove that conservation easement now, do we put ourselves in a position where DOT could say, you know what, you're already screwing around with the drainage on this, so now you own it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kurt, the drainage issue, if we're looking at that map, and I'm going to use that third page of what our members of the public handed out here. Correct me if I'm wrong, are we looking at that bottom corner of West Anderson?
Yes, so this is where we have all the collapsing going on here and here. And then this whole drainage starts from 90 as well. So it starts as DOT drainage, and then yes, this is where we have the collapsing in front of Bob and Jeff's, and then the, sort of like right here. And then this is where all the erosion is happening in here.
Okay,
And that church at the end is full of water in their basement.
Is DOT addressing solely the erosion, or are they addressing?
So right now, DOT is only addressing this hump that was in the road here, where they just put a plate. And they are, the gentleman that was out there was trying to tell us that none of that is gonna be their responsibility. But Steve Wingate refutes that and has told me that he's digging up stuff. He says he has things from them where they showed that it was. And I'm asking them for proof of what their limits are right now. I have not received that yet.
Okay, and just for clarity, that's in front of the lot marked as 1148-7, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I mean, we're fairly far removed from that particular lot where DOT is even addressing this issue. And importantly, the area that they're addressing isn't part of this, either the easement or the zoning. It's kind of across the road from it. I understand what you're talking about.
The conservation easement actually goes out, and you'll see a conservation easement that peaks out under that road and continues on down to the west. So
this is where it comes through. So it comes, and then it's gonna go over here and continue.
Yeah.
But the head of the drainway is up at the top there. It's even before Miss Hagan's property.
Yes, but the point is that the conservation easement starts on this property.
Yes.
It doesn't, this is obviously not the entirety of the problem with drainage in this area.
Correct.
It's certainly not her fault.
And it's not the, I don't know, have you talked to DOT about this? Yeah.
Just on site last week, and I've talked to, actually several times over the phone with Alfonso, who is the representative out of Midway, who oversees all the, and Mr. Mike Lee, who they do all the permitting and the drainage permits for this area, and another gentleman named Curran, who is was the one that just told me that he doesn't think it has anything to do with them, and so I asked him to show me a map of where they're saying their responsibility ends and ours begins, and I have not received that yet.
So we don't have enough in this pot to get it cooking.
Well, what it sounds like is I know Steve has been embroiled in this issue for a while now, or was embroiled in this issue before Kirk came on board. And there's a lot of back and forth with DOT. I don't know if this is something where one side's gonna give or not, to be frank with you. In the meantime, though, it's kind of stalemated. Touching this particular thing, I have my doubts about whether it will affect DOT's position on this, since their position is it's not our responsibility. And as you know, getting a state agency to budge on things like that can be difficult. But when it comes to where they're talking about, this is fairly far removed from that area, so I'm not sure that that would be an actual concern here.
And I have not received an official from all of DOT. This is, again, verbal conversation with one of the, you could call it a station chief that is responsible for a certain area, and he has not provided me what I've asked for yet.
So Steve is able to come up with the documentation that says DOT said it was their fault.
He is adamant that that exists.
I remember that happening, so if we come up with that, then we have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, I plan on addressing all of this, and I think it would be, I think once we have this, it'd be great to work our way up from there.
Yeah, I probably unnecessarily derailed the conversation, so I apologize.
Well, these are things that Mrs. Hagan would have to be absolutely sure of. So before we can move on, we all need to know where we're going and know the facts. So I don't see a vote on this one. Yes, sir.
You say that it started from 90?
Yeah, they're drainage specialists.
Yeah, on Palmer Mill and Walkeno. Is that the same water run down? Because you fixed the road once and it said from the drainage, it done caved in again.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. So we got problems starting from the top. It comes down to the bottom and flowing. Now, that part, I've been on the boat for a pretty good while. The part down there by Bob and Jeff, DOT, the state, this is a state federal highway, DOT, is state, they commission, it's in the city limits. It's their responsibility, even though they're trying to shoot you off. And we've been having this problem forever with that sink right there coming from top. And so the issue gotta be fixed down from, I see it messed up on Palmer Mill and Walkeno, and they coming on the back of those properties and they coming straight back down. They come back side of the middling place, and they cross. Now, matter of fact, over there with the Maryland chicken, that whole side is caved in.
Right, and the church down at the
Yeah,
end.
and you cannot cross the road where it should go to drain off in that swamp where the water crosses over.
One day,
Water
the
Street.
road is going to collapse, is what I figure.
Well, DOT need to get off. It's DOT problem. For that part, for making it where it will flow. And so they're trying to, we don't have the money to,
No, it'll be
that
very
is a
expensive.
federal highway. The states own it, but it's running in the municipality. So they're obligated, whether they want to do it or not, they're obligated. And like I said, I thought you talked to, somebody talked to the legislator when they was down here just last time, and they're supposed to have looked into that.
Yeah,
I don't know what the feedback
I need to
is
ask them
from.
for an update from that. And one of the Jefferson County commissioners, G.T. Searles, has just offered today to help lean on FDOT for us.
Yeah, you got to lean on. I believe if I can go back far enough with my agenda, I probably can pull that paperwork at the same thing as Mr. Wingate when he was manager, probably Raymond Clark when he was manager, probably Don Anderson when he was superintendent. I mean, I got it all. So if I have to go back and look in that, and I don't throw away nothing, I can go back and dig into my books and I'll find it. We can collaborate and we'll get it.
Yeah.
We just have to lean on them, and whatever it takes to make it happen, it got to happen. Because she shouldn't be penalized for something that she don't have control. And DOT has the money to do it.
Yes.
We don't.
Okay, so as it stands now, we will have to leave this over to when we get some more information from DOT, because this is something very necessary that we need to know about. And we need True.
So just to be clear, so Ms. Hagan's not left in limbo, we're waiting on clarification from DOT concerning the bottom part of the drainage and whether anything is affected further uphill by doing that. Is that, because I just want to make sure there's like a path forward for Ms. Hagan, one way or however we vote, that we're not in limbo.
May I make a suggestion here, just so, I know how we were doing this initially was see if we are even open to the idea of opening up this property functionally. What I would recommend, and the LPA was holding off on looking at the plans and that moving forward in order to determine whether or not we were moving forward at all. From what I'm hearing from Councilman Bachman, and I don't know if the remainder of the council agrees with this or not, there's some interest in determining whether we would approve these plans in conjunction with these changes, and whether the changes would be sufficient under what the council would expect. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to be fair to Ms. Hagan to, we're not stuck in a feedback loop here where whether the vote is yes or no on this, I mean, she's invested a considerable amount of time in attorneys and engineers, and so whether we're going to vote it up or down, we'll deserve to give her some sort of an answer.
But if we want to know what the plans are going to be moving forward, we would need to have the LPA do that process.
Correct.
I think so.
So should we continue that and at least?
Well, we had asked the LPA to vote on all 4 points, and they refused.
They declined, but we can go back and insist.
That was kind of my
They said
push
without
for
the
that.
zoning being addressed.
They said they was on point then, but I knew we would end up here, which is why I said, well, if you're gonna deny me on everything, let's sit down and hash it out with y'all, because with y'all, I can deal holistically with the whole site, and we can work things out. But they did. Now, something that is another opportunity is to move I'd move that as option 1, and that is to move the conservation easement and put it on the east property line.
Now, I should point out with that one, because I was a little concerned with that, is that because of the way the ordinance is currently being read, we have to repeat this process.
Yeah, we'd have to start all over, I get that, but it's another option, but it doesn't accomplish anything for the city. It keeps the conservation easement, which everybody's very happy to keep the conservation, but it doesn't solve the drainage problem. It makes no difference to the water. And that's why we really didn't want to offer that up, because we were trying to come up with a solution. The ditch with the ditch blocks would be something that could be dovetailed in, if you can ever get the DOT to move, to dovetail into a whole solution that starts at Ms. Hagan's property and goes all the way down to the grocery store. So that was what we were trying to do, and that's why we offered the drainage easement up. With that easement, it gives the state or the city or whoever the ability to come in and do that. This is just the conservation easement is extremely limiting, because there's nothing you can do with it. And I understand the purpose of it, and they have a purpose, but in this case, it doesn't overlay with the actual flow, and the conveyance, if you go out there and look at it, I mean, there's nothing growing on it, it's raw rocks and dirt, because the velocity of the water is so high, the grass can't sustain.
There used to be trees there, they were all cut down about a year ago.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there, there's no vegetation there.
Yeah, because it
But there's nothing there now, and there's nothing that's growing.
I can
That's what-
personally speak to rehabilitating land doing the same exact thing by putting natives in.
And that's what the ditch blocks would give us, like your
I'd also like to
water
say
gardens.
that you're mischaracterizing a good portion of the people are not trying to have Ms. Hagan solve the water problem that we already have. We're trying not to have the conservation easement moved or changed because it will exacerbate a water problem we already have. So there's a difference in that, because I don't want
The
Ms.
difference
Hagan.
is you can't do anything, so to fix this problem, you're gonna have to do some grading. You're gonna have to push some dirt around.
We're not asking her to fix the problem.
I understand that, but the city, nor Ms. Hagan, no one can do it with a conservation easement. That's why we said, give us something where we can push the dirt around, at Ms. Hagan's expense, construct this swale and ditch blocks, and then place a conservation easement, a drainage easement over it, and get rid of the conservation easement.
We're still gonna have the waterfront problem though.
It will address, it's a start. It's not going to fix all the problem. But the problem is much larger than Miss Hagan and one piece of property. This water comes off of 90, long before any of these folks were here on this board. We worked with Mr. Wingate, and the DOT has long since argued that their water ends, their responsibility ends at the right of way, which is absolutely incorrect. A lot of the water off of 90 and 19 all flow onto private property, which if you and I were doing that, it's illegal, but the DOT gets away with it. So this.
I think that
The issue is though is that this also continues past our block and the next road over. It continues down where that water flows. There are 20 other homes that are going to have flooding issues if the water isn't managed properly. And if the water is tenfold more, then they're going to end up with insurance increases. They're going to end up with homes that are filled with water like the
those
church.
represent the 35 signatures that I gave you on
And
that
you know,
petition.
there's 40 to 50 residents, businesses that, and the map that I gave you, the one that has, it's gray, there's gray markings on there that show that the flood zone, Zone A, comes out behind where that rivulet comes, and then Mikasuki comes in, and it comes back down, and it comes back into town, into other businesses. So that water, adding that water to all of the other water is an exponential effect. So I understand Ms. Hagan wants to be responsible, but I don't know how, you know, a drainage easement is going to keep that from being sufficient for the amount of parking she needs.
It's the start of a conveyance system. Now there is none. And this is a start to solve the problem.
Again,
It will not solve the entire
bare
problem.
land can be rehabilitated with natives, and those native plants absorb the water and do it far better than a permeable surface.
They don't change the direction of it.
I didn't say change the direction, it absorbs it. And that's a difference. So we don't need to hash this out. I'm just saying that there are other considerations than just the people on that block. And I appreciate she wants her business. And like I said, a boundary adjustment to add the 4 parking spots she needs, that might be a solution. But 4 parking spots versus the whole easement is a huge amount of water. 400 gallons with 15,000 is a lot of water to manage. Does she want to manage 15,000 gallons of water?
Okay, we can keep on with this, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so where we are now, this is going back to the planning committee, and what we need to see is more of the DOT involvement that our city manager will line up for us, so that Mrs. Hagan and all of us can have all the facts. So whether, whatever they are, we need the facts. So we will move on now. Next on the agenda.
Mayor, so
Yes,
by that, are we waiting till I get something from DOT, and then we will bring this and the site plans to the LPA and then to the council, so that you can look at the zoning issue and what is being built at the same time? Once I have clarification?
Please.
Okay. So I will hold that until.
Just for clarity here, what he's saying that he's going to wait to hear from the DOT before this goes in front of the LPA. Is that what the council is recommending here? Or would you prefer to have the LPA look at plans and then simultaneously do the DOT thing as 2 separate streams?
I think it's gonna take a long time for Clerk to come up with DOT's final decision. And it's been how many years so far, but in the work, so you've got your work cut out for you.
I think the only thing I could, like, in the meantime, you could potentially review the site plans and give what I would think would be a conditional approval based on these changes that would come later, but it wouldn't speed anything up because we'd be waiting still on this.
How do you approve the zoning? How do you do it?
That's all, but just in case you guys wanted to review the site plans in the meantime, so that, all right, this is approved already and it's ready for if this changes. I'm just asking if that's what.
Okay.
excuse me, the council. I think I understood that the funeral home can be built because it's on B2. So is the state saying that I can't park on the road?
Our
No.
code of ordinances is what right now would stop that. You would be required to have on-site parking of 25 spaces.
And it is.
Can she apply for a variance for that?
That's what part of this is
That's
the
part.
variance. In order to get to being able to put those spots on this property,
No, I'm
something needs
talking
to go at the back
about,
end.
not on the property, I'm talking about the required total number of spots so that she can operate her business without impeding on the conservation section.
That variance would come with that site plan. Oh, you're saying instead of trying to park in the conservation
Yes.
area? No, I have not received a variance for all the parking so, no.
The small R1A is too small for that.
Yeah, nothing has been presented to me to say, let's forget the parking and put it all on public space.
Well, I would say partial parking on public space, because she has enough parking for some. But
Okay, but no, that
Yes.
plan has not been,
There's 3 spaces on the right of way in front of the property, and then there's 3 spaces on the property, so it's 6.
okay, and she needs
Cool.
25?
25.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
so that's where I was not clear on how much space she had. In the LPA meeting, it seemed like she needed 5 spaces, and that was it.
We had reduced the number of spaces before, trying to keep the parking area as small as possible for stormwater, and originally we had reduced it down, and now we've gone back with the full 25, keeping them gravel, only asking for the 1 variance to go from pavement to gravel for
Okay, so-
stormwater consideration.
So the property itself with the ordinances and the zoning and all that is, got suitability issues.
Well, and that highway.
yes.
Okay, so this is, until we get more information on this, that we can move forward. Yes, sir.
I heard in the conversation with Monticello earlier that the planning committee voted 5-0. We should have received that. Well, what happened to that? How you gonna vote when we don't even get it in our packet?
That-
Now, honestly, you didn't make up.
Those were your minutes from the last meeting's packet. So if that was in there, I can get you a new copy, but I had those in the minutes for your last council meeting.
Was that separate from, because what about this one? The June packet?
The May packet.
The May packet,
Yeah, yes.
when you do May,
No.
it comes out in June. I mean, when we have the meeting for May, the minutes of May usually come the next month minutes.
Yeah, so last time the minutes were, there hasn't been another LPA meeting, so in the May meeting, you received the minutes regarding
April.
this.
Was that for the April?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The LPA met on this originally in May,
And
April.
it's in the minutes that what they recommended?
Yeah, their
Just let me
recommendation.
know there's in the minute, I'll go back and find it, that's all I
Yes,
want
sir.
to know.
Yes, sir, it is in
Okay.
there. And I, off the top of my head, I do not recall if it was 5-0, but it is in the minutes.
As I recall, I think there were only 4 members at that meeting, but it was unanimous, whatever.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I didn't want to say without reading those minutes, but those are in your, that is in your council packet from May.
Okay, all right. So here we are with our next item on King Street.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Apologies for missing your May meeting. I was doing continuing education down in South Florida. But I know King Street came up at that meeting, and there was a lot of discussion about stuff that happened last year. And so Avery, who's the design engineer, and I provided some information to Kathy that she shared with you all. And so we're just here tonight to see if there's any other additional questions that you have about when this proposal was approved, what the proposal entails, and then where we're at with the technical design of the project. So really don't have much new information, but just if you had additional questions, since we weren't here to answer them last month, we're available.
The last meeting that I was in, and the King Street project came up, the lines were down basically we had to do a couple of things and then we were ready to pour concrete. Because we was using pretty much all of what was already marked off.
So there's a couple steps between us drawing our lines and pouring concrete. So we have been working on a design. Last time Kate Rue was here, she presented the 60% design drawings to you all. And then we have to publicly bid this project because it's a city project. And then you would be able to select a contractor. Normally we bring that before the commission and you all vote to assign the contract to the contractor and then they can start working. So
the current line that's drawn on King Street, what is that?
That's the existing line on King Street? That's
you
out
mean the
there
survey
now?
line that's out there?
That white line that
Yeah.
goes from where we start to the end.
That's the existing pedestrian lane is what we were calling it. So that's existing, nothing has been done.
So is that gonna become the sidewalk?
That will be the new edge of pavement and then we will have curb and gutter and then a sidewalk, correct?
Okay, so the work has already started.
The design, not construction, design.
Okay.
Yes.
So how many phases before we get to construction?
So right now we're in the design phase, then you have the bid phase and construction phase. So during this design phase is where we get all the required permits, and then we have our construction package that we bid out, and then you all decide to award it to a contractor, and then they can start construction. And so right now you guys have authorized us for the design phase and the bid phase, and then if we bid it, then you all would make the decision. You would see the contract amount and make a decision on whether or not you wanted to enter into a contract with the contractor for that set amount to do the construction. So that would be the final phase.
And when would that be completed?
Okay, Rick?
We could probably, I think it depends on how quickly we move through. We've already got our permit with North Florida Water Management District, so that's good to go. We need to wrap up our design, so 90%. So we could probably bid maybe the end of the year, put it out to bid by the end of the year. Let's see, maybe earlier, sooner than that.
We're still at a point of needing to find funding, correct?
Correct. That is for construction, correct.
And so typically, if you would want us to seek grant funding for construction, we would do that once we have our completed design. So it's a quote shovel-ready project, which makes it much more appealing to the funding agencies, which is something that we would be more than happy to do to help you all look for construction funding. Because I think your last estimate was like 460,000, something like that.
It's like
to construct.
350 somewhere in there.
Yeah. So not cheap. But yeah. Just here to answer any other additional questions.
Thank you.
And I have design plans if you would like to look at design plans.
Okay, thank you. All right, new business. Foster and Foster request for council appointing to the fire pension board to replace Bonnie Littlefield.
Yes, Mayor. Foster and Foster is the administrator for the Fire Pension Board and the Police Pension Board. And they have two issues, actually, a second one that is not listed there, so I will tell you the two. Bonnie Littlefield is currently serving. She was appointed by the council, and we need a new person to take her place. So I don't know if any of the council had time to consider who they might want to put up for that, or if they had time to ask anyone. But that's the first thing. And the second one is simpler. Julius Hackett, his term is up August 1st, and he wants to continue on the board. But because his term is up, they need council approval to allow him one more term. So we would. So that one is easy. I guess we would need a motion.
Yeah, motion to approve reappointment
Julius Hackett. For whatever reason.
Yeah, I can't make the motion, so.
I move that we accept the Julius Hackett to continue on.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. We properly moved in second that we will accept Julius Hackett to continue on as a council appointee to Fire Pension Board.
just so I'm clear, kind of, what are the duties if I go out and ask somebody off the street if they want to participate? What, I mean, can you guys shed any light on what's involved?
Police pension board, two of us are on it.
Okay.
We're tasked with trying to assist making the judgment calls on where the funding needs to go. It's in a
trust or something.
Well, not a trust. It's in a investment account, and we assist with the decisions on whether to keep it invested in one area, to move it into another, or to, help ensure that money is there for future retirees to the police department. Julius Hackett, there on the fire department's pension board, they're there to ensure that that money is fostered for the retirees of the fire department.
What kind of time commitment, weekly, monthly?
It's quarterly. We meet quarterly.
Yeah. Is it a managed account? Is it managed through a contract with
Yep,
someone?
it's managed through, I can't think of their name right now.
Some financial institution?
Yeah,
Okay.
they just changed their name. I can't think of it.
We just
voted on it the other day. So.
Yeah.
But from a time commitment standpoint, an outsider being in, if you review the packet a couple hours beforehand and then an hour or so of discussion and voting, so it's pretty minimal. It's as in-depth as you want to make it.
Okay, thank you. So we still need to look for somebody for Bonnie Littlefield's.
Yes. All right, reports to council.
I guess I'm first one up on that.
Yes, sir.
All right, Chief's executive packet is in front of you. Couple things to talk about, not necessarily in the packet, but we are in June. Everybody knows what June is, right? Watermelon time. Okay. So this Friday we will have the block party. It'll be plus sign going down Mulberry all the way to the edge right here at Palmer Mill, and it's going to be Walnut from the edge of the parking in the City Hall parking lot to the edge of the parking for Trophy Creek Outfitters. We're going to have kids doing their own little parade on little carts and things like that. We're going to have the bed race, and you're going to have Chief and I emceeing the event. There'll be a live band out inside City Hall on a trailer. We hope to see everybody come out and enjoy and have a good time. And then Saturday, we're going to have the Watermelon Run. So citizens of Monticello, bear with us. We know that this happens every year. There's going to be some detoured stuff. Bear with us. As soon as it's over, we'll release traffic and get patterns back. Then next weekend is the Watermelon Festivals. It'll start on Friday. 5 o'clock in the morning, we'll have the city workers, Clerk, correct, and the police department out, ensuring that we can block off North Cherry, Dogwood, Pearl, and High, allowing for the festivities over there. You'll see extra vehicles going down Dogwood, Pearl, High, and most likely York. Those vehicles are going to be coming into the festivity area to set up. So they're going to be setting them up in groups. That way we don't block. There's been a lot of times where we try to have them parade through town, go up North Jefferson. That caused a huge cluster. We were thinking about going 90. That was going to be another problem. So we're going to have a lot of traffic on Dogwood, Pearl, High, and York. Vehicle traffic. It shouldn't be, but for maybe about 2 to 3 hours, but it will have less congestion on our main thoroughfares, so that way we can have everything assisted that way. The festivities will open up around 12 or 3, and it'll conclude that Saturday at 3 p.m. So we're looking at Friday and Saturday. There's going to be a lot of individuals downtown, a lot of foot traffic. We're going to have extra patrols. Kurt's going to have his city workers assist him with detouring traffic routes and everything. And we look forward to having a great event and parade.
Great. Okay. All righty, city attorney. I'm sorry, city manager.
Yeah, I have a few items. I gotta try to be quick. So right now in our cemetery fund, We have $226,000, and I'm requesting the city council's approval to use $11,600 for a new lawnmower that we desperately need, which is going to serve primarily those 3 cemeteries and some other things as well when we need it.
Okay. That's in the cemetery fund.
It's from the cemetery fund. Yes.
Should be no problem.
You need to approve that?
Yeah, because that way I can do the purchase.
Do I get a motion?
I move that we approve the lawnmower for the request by the city manager.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's been properly moved in the second that we will purchase the lawnmower from the cemetery fund for the cemetery.
All right. Next, in the city manager contract, there is a provision for me to live outside the city limits with the city council's approval. I am currently trying to close on a home right now that is 7 minutes from City Hall, but just outside the west boundary. And I asked you guys over Memorial Day weekend so that I could start the process, and so I'd like to officially ask for your approval for that.
Okay.
I approve.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, because this is something that can be approved under the ordinances. However, under the ordinance, it's typically required that the city manager reside within the city. There is an approval process for a variance for that, but it does require a full vote.
Okay.
I'll make a motion we allow Kurt Michaelwitz to live outside the city limits inside Jefferson County.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's been properly moved in second that the council will allow our city manager to live outside the city boundaries.
Okay, I have real quick, a couple things. I just wanted to inform the city and the city council that May 31st, we had a great turnout from at our ecological park. We did a trail cleanup with the help of the Pat Thomas Law Enforcement Academy out of Havana, where one of our own, AJ Figueroa, is actually going through the academy to join our police force. He's actually already a member. And they all came out and helped us do trail maintenance at no cost. And we had participation from the American Legion providing water, and that went really well. And now we're just ready for the actual maintenance of the structures that need to be fixed. But the rest looks great, and the open area where is typically for Boy Scout camping is how it should be. It's really great out there.
On that, the bath facility that I imagine the tree fell down on them.
Yeah.
So is that how there will have to be funds to get that fixed?
We are currently working with FEMA for funds for that. We have submitted a while back, and there's been a couple back and forth where they offered far less than we needed, so we provided itemized lists so that they have the proof of what we actually need. And so we're in the process of that now, so hopefully that shouldn't take too much longer. And the last thing is there was actually interlocal agreement that was brought to us by Jefferson County and the Sheriff's Office, which involves JAG funds, which is Justice Assistant Grant. Typically, that is something that between the city of Monticello and the county, they come to an agreement on how roughly $40,000 to $44,000 each year will be allocated. The county is proposing that rather than each year trying to share and divvy it up, we move to a system that would involve odd years, which this would be the city's year, and that would be essentially when we're going to ask them for a clarification through writing on this. But 25 to 26 would be the city's year to receive all the funds. The next year would be the county's, and it would go back and forth and so on. And do you have anything to add to that, or Mitchell?
I think that what we would like to do here is request that the council approve this as a general scheme subject to contract finalization. Because of course the council has the power over fund disbursement, we felt it necessary to have you all vote on this. But in the end, this is routine paperwork for a good chunk of cash for our police force, so I would recommend it.
Great.
Yeah, the last time that we actually took part in this was either 2017, 2018, and we reached out looking to acquire some of that funding to purchase things, so that way it doesn't exasperate the budget. And then this is what the county has suggested we do, which I think is more than fair, that they share 1 year with us and 1 year with them.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, so we need a motion?
Yeah, a motion to basically permit this process to move forward.
And then he will finalize that.
Yeah, we'll finalize this. We may require a signature from a member of the council as well.
So moved.
Well, we gotta have a motion, right?
Yes.
You can.
I'll try to craft one.
She can do it. She can say so moved and just.
All right, I make a motion that we approve. You did it?
She did it, Brian.
Okay.
She moved.
Oh, she moved. I thought she had to distinguish what she was moving.
No, we know just what he said, that's it.
Yeah, she can say what he said.
It's been a long night. I'm trying to pay attention, but I'm losing it.
So moved. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second, that we will do whatever you say.
Hey, they get it 1 year and we get it.
And my last, I'll be getting with you guys soon. We're gonna meet to schedule a budget workshop, and
Absolutely.
from what I've gathered, now would the council prefer the whole council or a committee? I believe it should be the whole council involved.
There's already a budget committee established, so we don't have to change it.
Yeah, let's talk about that is.
We need to figure out who we're gonna meet.
And, well, that's what I'm gonna be.
Okay. Alrighty. All right, city attorney.
Okay, I think everything that has been discussed is, I would like to inform the council. As you know, I've kept our rates, or my rates, I should say, pretty steady over the past 2 years. We're sort of at a point now where unfortunately I do have to request a small increase. I will be getting information over to you all about that as soon as possible. And so that it can be worked into the budget to the extent that it's necessary, or if you decide that you want to bid it out, of course, I'm finishing out this year under the terms that we've already agreed to.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
My report is in the packet. There is one aspect of it that I think I need a motion on. I would like to ask the council's permission to attend the Florida Association of City Clerks 2025 Summer Academy and Conference. It runs July 13 through 16, so I would be out of the office traveling back on the 17th and back in the office on the 18th. An approximate expenditure of $1,000 to $1,100.
I move that you attend those classes because they're very educational. They will help you out in the process.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
It's been properly moved in second that
Kathy, do we have a completion date for the annual audit at this point? Have they given you?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay.
No.
All right. All right, while you got the floor, would you like to do your member report?
First of all, I've seen city workers out working hard to clean the city up, getting ready for Watermelon Festival, and so just I've made sure to compliment them every time I've had a chance. But thank you for that. It's making a big difference. The only other thing I have is, for those that haven't seen it, there is a mural on the side of Vintage Treasures downtown that was a part of, kind of sponsored by the Florida Wildlife Corridor. I had the opportunity to be on the selection committee for that, and it's really turned out to be a great thing. I think a great addition for a downtown. So if you haven't seen it yet, go by and take a look. It looks great, and we're hoping to have a second mural completed on the wall where the groove, whatever place that wall is potentially going to get a second mural. So both projects, I think, are a real plus for the downtown.
Okay. Great. All right, looks like it's my time. All is well. I would like us to consider, remember the chamber asked us for $2,000 to help them. And it's getting mighty close to Watermelon Festival, and I would like permission for Clerk to see if she can see where we have $2,000 to aid them in this. This is for the promotion of Monticello.
They asked me to put it into next year's budget. Is that different from what you heard, or?
Yes.
And I like for it to be discussion, because that's what the tourist development, that's what we sit on, and what they get money from. And the chamber is not broke.
That same token,
and so, I mean, I don't know where we're gonna just, when we scraping now.
I know the Watermelon Festival is a great draw for this town.
Yeah.
I also know that our police force is largely volunteering
And workforce.
put that on, and the workforce is volunteering to put that on. I would like to state that that's not typical. Ordinarily, there is some charge for city services related to these kinds of events.
And I
We get a
can
small
total our hours that we spend on this and present it to y'all, as well as, I'm sure,
The city workers.
city workers.
Yeah,
We
because
get,
I
we
think
get,
that,
as far as I know, we get a small amount from the chamber for that.
I think we waived that fee this year, didn't we?
Oh, so not even a small amount, okay.
Or did they pay the $400 for the Watermelon Festival?
They did, yes.
They did? Okay.
Yes.
And they're getting money actually from the bed taxes there.
Yeah.
No. The Tourist Development Council gets money from the bed tax, not the chamber. Chamber doesn't
Right,
have anything
but-
to do with that.
But the chamber, so is it, I need to check on this, so the chamber is not a line item in that every year they get money?
No. They split, when the chamber was together, and the TDC was together, yes, that happened. But then they split, and the TDC is now under the county with Shannon Meddy. So they do
Right.
not,
And I stand correct. But I know that there are a couple of organizations that are building yearly that get specific amount of money for advertisement and stuff. I will go back and double check.
you
And
talking
I
about chamber or TDC?
the TDC receives the bed tax
Right.
as a budget
Right.
that distributed to promote Jefferson County. And I want to say, and I stand to be correct, that there are certain groups that are yearly get a set amount of money for that
From the
promotion.
TDC? Okay, the TDC used to have some grants. I do think that,
The grants are different.
Yes.
We have the grants, and then there's a certain, like the wildlife, and a certain group that actually are pinned in every year for an amount. Like I said, I can double check, but
Yeah, they
there are
just
certain-
gave some money for the Juneteenth. That was $500.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the meeting grants. I'm talking
okay.
about specifically
All right.
budget to go to these organizations to promote, because those are big events. I think it was the Watermelon Festival, now they wanted to add the Christmas parade, but I need to double check. But I'm pretty sure
you
that,
may be right. I've been out for a while, and I don't think, the last I heard, TDC had split and the money was not coming.
yes, it's split it, but there's still certain organizations that get funds. And
Wow,
there's
the
also,
TDC.
right, and there's also the mini grants like the Dirty Pecans and all
Right.
the other ones that come with it.
But I don't think the chamber gets money from the TDC. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's.
but I do think it would be helpful to know what our in-kind contributions are to these
We
events.
provided one last year. I'll provide a new one
Okay,
for this
okay,
year.
maybe for the city guys too, just so we've got something we can.
And like I said, I just want to point that out,
Yeah.
because this is, I get the Watermelon Festival's a big draw.
The chamber does pay for one law enforcement officer to be from the hours of when it closes, 9 p.m., till when it kind of opens at 7 a.m. They pay for one police officer to go around the festivity areas to ensure that we don't overtax our police force. The question one time was, can we provide extra patrols in that? And I told them, I said, I don't feel that that is fair to the public that we patrol extra on top of that. Normally those would be an off-duty detail, which they do provide, pay for one officer for an off-duty detail. But there are a lot of other hours that are spent by our department and by our city to ensure that this goes off. For the past, 3 months, I have been meeting and planning and getting other organizations. How many did I say? 6? I've got 6 other police departments and sheriff's departments coming in to assist us, as well as state agencies with barricades and other tools that we're going to be utilizing that had to all be gathered that pull away from the other daily operations of the Monticello Police Department, which again, there's only 11 of us.
Madam Mayor, are you still on the chamber board?
Yes.
Do you recall money being given from the TDC?
No, TDC sure has some money though.
TDC does, yes. Not chamber.
But no, it wasn't anything, because at the last meeting, that did come up also that they were needing some money, but nobody moved on that.
Right.
And I believe the city clerk pointed out that Jefferson County is actually taken off for Juneteenth, and I wanted to see if the council wanted to do that for the city employees. That's not one of our holidays right now.
But that was a federal holiday, right?
Yeah. Federal
and I don't see no reason why not.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
All employees?
Yep.
Alrighty.
What's the date of Juneteenth?
June 19th.
19th.
Yep,
Thank you.
Juneteenth.
Councilman Evans, you have any comments?
I didn't want to bring up, I know, I looked at the report as far as the travel for the council, and I know the end of the year is coming in August, I guess, the conference, and I was just wondering how many council people was going.
Look like the way the money being distributed, I'm the only one going, and it's not coming out, it's coming from off the card. I don't know if the card comes from out of the budget for that or not, but I use the business card when I go.
And that's August the 15th, 16th, is that right?
You talking about the annual conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what annual conference. Yeah. Now we need approval for that. Now that knock a chunk out for sure.
Right. So I guess that's what I'm saying. So how?
I would be interested in going.
Okay.
Now, you know I had those committee meetings. I think September, October, and December. Committee meeting that I'm on with solid waste and land. And they meet twice before the annual conference, and then after the annual conference, you have the legislative conference. I think right after the annual conference will be in December. So I usually go to all 4 of those.
Right. I guess my point is that we're gonna need to find $2,000 because I think we overextended the budget. If more than one council person would go to the conference, so. Again, I'm just reiterating, even when people tell you that we need money, that we are, if you look at the budget report, have expending all of that.
Well, we have to look at it there.
Those conferences are educational.
Oh, that's right.
I'm just saying that.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, the business credit card that I use for all the travel, I don't even ask for per diem, none of that. I just take the credit card and I get the food they have there, and usually I get just the gas and the lodging. So do that come out of the general funds, or that coming from what the expenditures for the city council?
It comes from there's a line item in our budget for travel for the city
So it comes
council,
from there?
and it
Okay.
comes from that,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Councilman Jones?
Yeah, well, basically this is for our new manager there. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm about to have a new planner, and we currently have an intern from FSU that's helping that transition for the new, when I have the new planner.
All right, all right.
I was, one of the residents live over there had said that a bench, it's about 4 benches over there.
Yeah.
I see it's done. That's what I'm gonna compliment you on.
Thank you,
Moved
Mr.
it.
Curtis.
When I
Yes,
seen
sir.
him, I said, listen, man, go down to the end. That bench is there on the end of Martin Street. And now, other ones have is on Railroad, South Railroad, and 4th, there's a holding pond. There's, where the water comes out from the holding pond, the pipe that it runs down, and it flows all the way down to the drain, and then there's another holding pond to the left. Well, that drain, those pipes need to be cleaned out. They jammed up. And what happened is, when it jams, it floods the people's yard out. The ones right there on 4th and the next house to it, look like a river there. But if they open the pipe up, the water will flow because it's already there. The other ditches are open.
Yeah.
It's just coming off of 4th Street.
We can take our jet trailer over there and blow out.
Yeah,
the pipe.
that can get blown out. Do that, that'd be tremendous. Now, also, I think I said it maybe a month or two ago, on Pearl Street, between Mars and Simpson, on the north side, there is some corns that have been there since the past hurricane.
On the sidewalk?
Yeah, the sidewalk
Yeah.
caved in.
Okay. Yeah.
And last time I was on there was a gentleman, he was weed eating it, so the city didn't have to weed eat it. But if it's any way possible, people say sometimes get cleansing their trip in that hole and they want to sue the city. So if possible, we can get that fixed.
Yeah.
Now
sir.
coming down west, Quail Lane, from Simpson to Sunset on the south side, there's markers there, the sidewalk, upside down, broke down, they need to be repaired.
Okay.
Because anybody comes along cleansing, they just want to sue, that's what they're gonna do. And that have been like that even before you come over here when manager Wingate was here.
Yes,
so we can get somebody to take care of that. That'd be plenty of money saving project for the city.
Okay.
Now, last one, there on Park and 2nd Street, there were signs up saying blind driveway. Former manager Raymond Clark had put one of those mirrors up that you can see the traffic from approaching that way. I can also see traffic coming from 2nd then. Well, it been there so long till I guess the sun done rotted off. It fell apart.
Replace that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what happened is it got happy because the school district came over there and they did a cleanup at the old school. So I think they was out there weed eating and it was already about shot. So I tried to put it, we can get a new one.
Yeah. I'll take a look at that. Yes, sir.
Take a look at it, it broke down.
Kurt's gonna get PTSD every time it's your turn to talk. No, I'm kidding.
Well, he understands PTSD because he been in the war zone. But back to this, we gonna move. That's just part of town. I walks all over. I be taking notes of everything. I'm just those ones that need immediate attention.
Yes, sir.
So north side gonna hit, the west side gonna hit too because me and my puppy, we rock and roll.
Well, and that helped me because we only have so many eyes on our
We
so,
gonna make sure.
Yes, please.
You done a great job, and whenever I see it, I know they'll get with it. But those items, they sort of like help me please. And usually, I can't park forward in my driveway. I have to back out, and that's how I see that mirror. It is 2 speed bumps on Park, and there's one on 2nd. They'll still come through there flying. So every now and then, put a cruiser there, and just hit that $120. I mean, they just come boom, boom. I said, okay, you gonna tear your front end up. But, great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, my man.
And just really quick, because you reminded me of something. We've actually had people requesting to put the meters back up on North Jefferson, right in front of the crosswalk, or in front of the
courthouse to enforce the 30-minute parking in that area, or hour parking, so that all the parking is not taken up by particular businesses.
But would that be enforced?
You talking?
We would need to work with the police force.
So there's multiple ways that we could accomplish that. We don't have to go to the old meter system where you put a quarter in. You can do pay by plate or pay by toll, and of course whatever y'all like. I know that Curtis had several people come to him. We've had several people. The biggest one was today. We got that large dumpster moved out of the way. That was on North Jefferson, but there are a lot of complaints on the parking, and the easiest way I think to overcome that would be to put something there to enforce it, and that would be a meter, and then that would be the answer to when you go up to write the citation, you did or didn't pay for the meter, so that's why you're getting the citation.
And that would be some revenue to go towards streets.
Not the citations, but the meters.
No, yeah, not the citations.
Would you like me to put that on the agenda for next month? So we can have a proper discussion about
Ma'am.
that?
You gonna put the meters back?
Up for their discussion.
There's that spot right when they come around the corner by Cowhouse. It's not a spot.
That's not a spot.
And somebody's gonna get a semi.
So we have asked DOT to supply some striping to indicate that that's no parking.
That is a weird place.
We will ask again. I know we've talked to Raymond about it, and Raymond has informed us that DOT has to tell them to put the striping down. But yes, it's definitely
somebody's gonna get.
We worked a actual traffic accident on the other side of the road where somebody parked not in a parking spot, and because of that, the semi-trailer making the turn clipped the side of their vehicle, thus giving some fault to them, the people parked, by being improperly parked.
So, in putting it on the minutes, can we clarify that we'll put it on the minutes as for discussion, to advertise it in the paper, and not necessarily
not to make a decision.
Right.
I know it's been a long time, but one of them. You know the signs are already up, state law for those crosswalks, and there used to be a sign with that. And I know when I went to Sarasota, they had the same thing, the crosswalk, and if a person don't stop, they had a monetary, they would hook you up when the person in the crosswalk, and they see you in the crosswalk, and they see that, say it's state law, that was $75. So maybe if this police department want to encourage now, you just every now and then you might have an officer patrol by, because they do it. Even with the bump outs, it's shorter. But I'm saying that where it says state law stop, man, they run you right over.
So what I would refer you to is your packet to see how many warnings and citations we already write, and we are 11 people, but we will do parking and pedestrian crossing enforcement if that is the wish of the council.
I've been honked at for stopping for those pedestrians.
Well, I obey them because when I see somebody, I know me. So I stop and give them ample space, so they can walk across. So I'm not in that big a hurry. And I commend you for the works that you are doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, great job. All right, Councilmember Richardson, you're up.
Yes, y'all have said some of the things that I was gonna say, so I'm not gonna reiterate, but thank you. I have 3 things I want to mention. Jack Carswell, who was here tonight, I wish he was here now, owns the lot that Oh Happy Day was in. I think it's still Oh Happy Day. It is the north side of the post office, and that street that goes down there, I think it's Pearl Street. Jack owns that lot, and he offered a few years ago, I don't know when, to sell just a strip of sidewalk, right along the side, running east and west, to sell to the city for parking spots. I don't know.
Where at?
I'm sorry?
Where at, Pearl?
You know where the post office is?
Right.
Across the street, going north. There's a little concrete wall there.
Right.
And he offered to sell a strip all the way down to the next street for the city, and I don't think it happened. I would like for you to maybe talk with him and see if that's still available, because like y'all know, we all need parking, and that would help.
You said his first name was?
Jack Carswell. I'll send you his number. And the cemetery downtown, have those signs been?
The Roseland Cemetery?
Yeah, yes. Have those signs been, have we bought more signs to put up, the ones that are falling down? Or-
I'll look into that. I know we do have signs at the barn, but let me look at
There
that.
was, the last time I was walking around there, it looked like they weren't in the proper spot.
Okay.
And the last thing, the sidewalk between where the chamber is, that Water Street going east, that sidewalk that runs along the Baptist Church parking lot, the end closest to the chamber, about a year ago, there was a water issue and it was repaired, but the sidewalk was not put back. There's clay over.
You say right across the road from the chamber,
Yes.
where the sidewalk just ends
Yes.
abruptly, and it's okay.
Yeah. That was it.
Okay. I have another question for city manager. This was presented to me. Does the city take care of Roseland and the cemetery on the backside also?
The old city cemetery that's next to it. Yes.
Yes,
ma'am.
they take care.
Yes.
Okay.
I see to that.
Okay, thank you.
My husband is very careful.
Yes, we maintain all three, Old
Okay.
City, Roseland, and Oakfield.
Good.
And once I get through looking at doing some work in Oakfield, then I'll be addressing some other things in those cemeteries too. Since we
You've
have
got a
those
lot of work to do and you're doing it well.
Okay. We call this meeting adjourned.
9:28 maybe? What time is it?